Before we begin, take a moment to settle into a comfortable position. There is nothing you need to accomplish right now, nowhere you have to be, and no pressure to keep every detail of this biography in your mind. You can allow the story to simply move alongside you, like a calm voice in the background of your evening. If your thoughts drift, that is perfectly fine. You can return whenever you want, or not at all. The narrative will keep its gentle pace. And if you like these soft, gentle narrations, and they help you fall asleep, like the channel, and tomorrow morning, fresh and well-rested, leave me a little heart in the comments to let me know you want more calm pop stories. This is a calm, steady, factual walk through the life of Madonna Louise Ciccone, the girl from Michigan who grew into one of the most influential artists of the modern era. Her story spans decades, industries, controversies, reinventions, and artistic revolutions. But at its foundation is a very human journey, one shaped by loss, ambition, discipline, creativity, and resilience. Let's begin at the beginning. Madonna Louise Ciccone was born on August 16th, 1958, in Bay City, Michigan. She was named after her mother, Madonna Fortin, a French-Canadian woman known for her warmth, devotion to family, and deep Catholic faith. Her father, Silvio Tony Ciccone, was a second-generation Italian-American who worked as an engineer in the automotive industry, which dominated the economy of Michigan at the time. Madonna was the third of 6 children, part of a large, lively Catholic household where routine, responsibility, and noise were constants. The Ciccone home was busy and structured. There were siblings to help, chores to complete, church services to attend, and schoolwork to manage. It was a loving environment, but also one that demanded discipline and self-reliance. Not long after Madonna was born, the family left Bay City and moved to Rochester Hills, a suburb of Detroit. In the 1960s, Detroit was bustling with industry, especially car manufacturing, and its music scene radiated outward through Motown Records. These influences shaped the backdrop of Madonna's earliest memories. Her mother played a central role in her life, warm but firm. She instilled in her children a sense of faith and moral grounding. Religious icons, rosaries, and rituals were part of the household atmosphere. Catholic symbolism would later appear in Madonna's music videos, photo shoots, and performances, sometimes reverently, sometimes provocatively, but always with a personal familiarity. For a few years, the Ciccone household followed an ordinary rhythm: Mass on Sundays, school during the week, chores, sports, music, noise. But when Madonna was only 5 years old, her mother became seriously ill. She had breast cancer, and the treatments available at the time were limited. Children often sense change before adults explain it. The atmosphere at home grew heavy. There were whispered conversations, irregular schedules, and expressions on adult faces that suggested worry. The illness changed the emotional structure of the house, long before Madonna fully understood what was happening. In December 1963, when Madonna was still very young, her mother passed away. It was a devastating moment, one she would later say shaped her entire emotional development. She experienced a profound sense of loss, confusion, and abandonment. Many of Madonna's lifelong themes, control, independence, defiance, reinvention, trace back to this loss. After the death, the Ciccone household continued, but everything felt different. Madonna became more observant, more inwardly determined, and more aware of the fragility of family structures. Her father, now a single parent with 6 children, faced the challenge of running a large household. He worked long hours and struggled to manage childcare. Eventually, he married again, this time to the family's housekeeper, Joan Gustafson. Madonna struggled with the idea of someone replacing her mother. The new rules, stricter household expectations, and Joan's presence created tension. This was not a quietly obedient child. Even at a young age, Madonna had a strong sense of self, a desire to push limits, and an instinct to resist control. School offered a different landscape. Madonna was highly intelligent and academically driven. Teachers consistently described her as bright, focused, and ambitious. She earned excellent grades and was capable of following a traditional academic path. But alongside her academic achievements, a creative world was forming within her. Dance entered her life early, and it became a central force. She began taking ballet, and her teacher, Christopher Flynn, became one of the most influential mentors of her youth. Flynn recognized her raw talent and encouraged her to pursue it seriously. He also introduced her to a wider world beyond the suburban environment: art, nightlife, theater, and the expressive freedom of dance culture in Detroit. Dance offered Madonna structure and discipline. She trained rigorously, sometimes obsessively, repeating routines until her muscles understood them instinctively. While other teenagers socialized, Madonna spent hours in the studio. She has said in interviews that she was not the most naturally gifted dancer, but was often the most hardworking. Through dance, she learned precision, strength, and the power of performance. At Rochester Adams High School, Madonna became a multifaceted student, a high achiever academically, a cheerleader, a dancer, and someone who liked to mix obedience with rebellion. She tested limits, but always maintained her forward momentum. She developed a sharp awareness of attention, what attracted it, how to command it, and how to stand out. When she graduated high school, she earned a scholarship to study dance at the University of Michigan. This was a major achievement and a clear sign that her talent was recognized. At university, she studied modern dance, worked with respected instructors, and deepened her technique. But even with a scholarship and a structured environment, something inside her remained restless. She felt that she needed a bigger stage, literally and figuratively. Her ambitions were not confined to classrooms or traditional career pathways. Christopher Flynn, still a guiding influence, pushed her toward the idea of New York City. If she wanted to be a serious dancer, or a serious performer of any kind, New York was essential. The city represented opportunity, independence, risk, and reinvention. Madonna listened. In 1978, at age 19, Madonna left the University of Michigan and moved to New York City. She has often said that she arrived with about $35 in her pocket, a detail repeated so frequently that it has become part of her origin myth. Whether or not the number is exact, the truth remains: she arrived with very little money, very few connections, and no guaranteed path forward. New York City in the late 1970s was a place of extremes. It was vibrant, creative, and full of artistic possibility. It was also gritty, dangerous, and economically unstable. For a young woman alone, it was daunting. But Madonna has described this moment as the bravest thing she ever did. She moved into small apartments in the Lower East Side, areas with unreliable heating, basic facilities, and constant noise. She worked whatever jobs she could find: waitressing, posing for art students, performing with small dance companies. She often struggled to pay rent and buy food, but she kept moving. Dance remained her focus at first. She auditioned for modern dance companies and performed in experimental pieces. But dance alone was financially precarious, and she started exploring music more seriously. She played drums in bands, sang occasional vocals, learned guitar basics, and experimented with songwriting. New York's club scene was an important classroom. Madonna went out frequently, not just socially, but professionally. She watched performers, paid attention to how crowds reacted, studied the sound of the moment, and absorbed the raw energy of underground culture. She blended punk, disco, Latin influences, and emerging electronic sounds into her own developing style. By the early 1980s, something was changing. Madonna wasn't just a dancer who sang a little. She was becoming a singer with a vision. By 1980 and 1981, Madonna had shifted firmly into music. She began performing with a band called Breakfast Club, where she sang and played drums. Although she appreciated the collaborative structure of a band, she quickly realized she wanted more creative control. She left Breakfast Club and formed a new project called Emmy and the Emmys, where she stepped into the role of front woman. This was a key turning point. Madonna was no longer in the background. She wanted the microphone. She wanted the stage. She wanted the spotlight on her terms. During this period, she spent hours writing, rehearsing, and creating demo tapes. She used every connection she could find to push her music into the right hands. New York's club culture was starting to embrace dance pop and early electronic influences, and Madonna's demos captured that exact energy. Raw, rhythmic, and instantly catchy. Her breakthrough came when a demo of her song Everybody reached Mark Kamen's, a well-known DJ at the iconic downtown club Danceteria. Kamen's liked the track immediately. It had the qualities club audiences responded to: a steady beat, simple structure, and a hook that was easy to remember. He played the track in his sets, and the reaction was strong enough to get attention from the industry. Commons introduced Madonna to Seymour Stein, the head of Sire Records. In a detail that has become part of industry legend, Stein listened to her demo from a hospital bed, recovering from a heart condition. Even in that unusual setting, he heard potential and energy. He signed Madonna to Sire in 1982. This, the official beginning of Madonna's recording career. Her first single with Sire, Everybody, was released that same year. It performed well on dance charts and in clubs, establishing her presence in the dance pop scene. Interestingly, the single was released with artwork that did not feature Madonna's image, leading some listeners to assume she was black, a misconception that reflected how deeply her music was rooted in the sound of contemporary black dance culture in New York. Madonna didn't mind. What mattered was that people were dancing to her song. In 1983, Madonna released two more singles, Burning Up and Holiday. Holiday became her first mainstream hit, reaching audiences not only in the U.S. but also internationally. The song's bright production, upbeat rhythm, and celebratory message captured the era perfectly. Even now, decades later, it remains a perennial feel-good track. With this growing momentum, Madonna released her debut album, simply titled Madonna, in July 1983. The album was a carefully crafted mix of dance pop and post-disco energy, featuring songs like Lucky Star and Borderline. It showcased Madonna's confident vocal style, catchy hooks, and instinctive sense of rhythm and image. But the visual element was equally important. MTV was transforming the music industry, turning videos into a critical part of an artist's identity. Madonna instinctively understood this shift. She embraced fashion as a storytelling tool, mixing lace, crucifixes, layered jewelry, bright colors, and street style into a look that felt fresh and rebellious. Teenagers across America rushed to imitate her style. Madonna wannabes became a cultural phenomenon. The combination of her music and her image made her impossible to ignore. With only one album, she was already becoming a major figure in pop culture. The next chapter of her career launched her into global superstardom. In late 1984, Madonna released her second album, Like a Virgin. Produced by Nile Rodgers, known for his work with Chic, the album had a polished, radio-friendly sound. The title track, Like a Virgin, was a provocative blend of innocence and suggestion. Its lyrics and visual presentation sparked immediate controversy, which only helped the song gain more attention. Her performance of Like a Virgin at the inaugural MTV Video Music Awards in 1984 propelled her even further into the spotlight. She appeared dressed in a wedding gown, complete with veil and boy toy belt buckle. As she rolled around the stage floor, the audience reacted with a mix of shock, excitement, and confusion. Many older viewers were scandalized. Younger viewers were captivated. Madonna later said that the performance was partly improvised after her shoe slipped, but the effect was powerful. It established her as someone who could command attention effortlessly. Beyond the title track, the album included hits like Material Girl, which featured a music video referencing Marilyn Monroe's performance of Diamonds, or A Girl's Best Friend. Many interpreted the song literally, but Madonna later noted that it was more of a commentary on the way society valued women through material terms. Even early in her career, she understood the importance of framing narratives rather than letting others control them. By 1985, Madonna was everywhere. She toured internationally, starred in the film Desperately Seeking Susan, appeared on magazine covers, and performed at major award shows. The film was a commercial success and became a cult classic. It fit her perfectly, stylish, playful, and rooted in downtown New York culture. It was also during this period that Madonna married actor Sean Penn. Their relationship was intense and widely publicized. They shared strong creative passions, but also strong tempers, and the marriage became known for conflicts, dramatic arguments, and tabloid coverage. Despite their difficulties, Madonna dedicated the album True Blue to Penn. The couple divorced in 1989, closing a turbulent chapter in her personal life. By the mid-1980s, Madonna was no longer just a rising star. She was an established cultural force. Her third studio album, True Blue, released in 1986, reflected a more mature sound and broader thematic ambition. It included Papa Don't Preach, a song that tackled teenage pregnancy and personal responsibility. The storyline was unusual for a pop hit, and it sparked debates about morality and family dynamics. The album also included Live to Tell, a deeply emotional ballad, and La Isla Bonita, a track with strong Latin influences. These songs showed Madonna's versatility and willingness to experiment with different genres. True Blue became one of her best-selling albums, proving that she could balance commercial appeal with artistic evolution. But the most significant artistic leap of her 1980s career came next. In 1989, Madonna released Like a Prayer, an album that marked a major shift in tone and content. The music incorporated rock elements, gospel influences, and deeply personal themes. The title track was accompanied by a music video that stirred massive controversy for its religious symbolism. Burning crosses, statues coming to life, church settings, and scenes addressing racial injustice. The Vatican condemned the video. A major sponsor ended a multi-million-dollar contract with her. Conservative groups protested, but the song itself became a critical and commercial triumph. Madonna's willingness to challenge social structures and emotional boundaries distinguished her from other pop stars of the moment. The album also featured Express Yourself, a feminist anthem encouraging self-respect and independence, and Cherish, a bright, charming love song. Like a Prayer cemented Madonna's status as an artist who could blend controversy, creativity, and popularity into something uniquely powerful. The early 1990s saw her venture even further into provocative and experimental territory. In 1990, she released Vogue, a single inspired by ballroom culture and the underground LGBTQ+ communities of New York. The song became a massive global hit. Its iconic black and white video, directed by David Fincher, remains one of the most celebrated music videos of all time. It introduced the wider world to the dance style known as voguing and highlighted the aesthetics of the queer ballroom scene, long before mainstream media acknowledged it. In 1992, Madonna released the album Erotica and the accompanying coffee table book Sex. The book featured explicit images and fantasy scenarios, pushing boundaries around sexuality, power, and performance. Public reaction was mixed. Some praised her for breaking taboos, while others criticized her for going too far. The album itself explored sensuality, vulnerability, and desire in an unfiltered way. While commercially less successful than her previous work, it had a lasting cultural impact. At this time, Madonna also founded Maverick, her own entertainment company, under the Warner Music Group umbrella. Maverick would go on to sign and develop other artists, including Alanis Morissette, whose album Jagged Little Pill became one of the best-selling albums of the 1990s. But for Madonna personally, the early 1990s were a period of artistic exploration combined with scrutiny. By 1994 and 1995, she began to shift into a new creative phase. Her 1994 album Bedtime Stories softened the provocative edges of her earlier work, exploring R&B influences and more intimate themes. The single Take a Bow topped charts for weeks and became one of her most successful ballads. Then came a role that transformed public perception of her. In 1996, Madonna starred as Eva Perón in the film Evita. She campaigned actively for the role, believing she was uniquely suited to portray the controversial Argentine First Lady. The musical required a different vocal style, more controlled, dramatic, and technically rigorous. Madonna trained intensely with vocal coaches and worked hard to deliver a performance that critics and audiences would take seriously. The effort paid off. She won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy for the role. The success of Evita helped erase earlier doubts about her acting ability and showed her capacity for discipline and transformation. That same year, Madonna became a mother for the first time. Her daughter, Lourdes Maria Sacon-Leon, was born in October 1996. Motherhood profoundly changed Madonna's worldview. She became more reflective, more centered, and more focused on the emotional aspects of her life. This new stage set the foundation for her next major artistic reinvention. In 1998, Madonna released an album that marked one of the most significant transformations of her entire career. The project was Ray of Light, created in collaboration with producer William Orbit. The sound blended electronic music, atmospheric arrangements, and deeply introspective lyrics. It was a sharp departure from the sensual, confrontational tone of her early 1990s work. Motherhood had reshaped her perspective. So had age, loss, and years of public scrutiny. The album reflected a woman looking inward, examining her past, her desires, her fears, and her spiritual searches. Madonna had begun studying Kabbalah, a mystic interpretation of Jewish tradition, and exploring broader ideas about meaning and inner peace. These influences appeared in songs like Nothing Really Matters, which asked what remains important when everything else falls away. Frozen, one of the album's lead singles, showcased a new vocal style and a haunting, emotional arrangement. Its music video, filmed in a desert landscape, presented Madonna as a calm, shape-shifting presence, far from the provocative personas of earlier eras. The title track, Ray of Light, pulsed with energy and optimism, reflecting a sense of renewal. The album received widespread critical acclaim. It earned multiple Grammy Awards, including Best Pop Album. More importantly, it showed the industry and the world that Madonna was not bound to any single style or era. She could evolve, adapt, and surprise, not through shock alone, but through genuine artistic growth. Through the late 1990s, Madonna balanced her role as a mother with her expanding career. She continued to act occasionally, to refine her musical direction, and to explore new creative influences. She was in her late 30s, an age when many female pop stars historically faded from mainstream attention. Instead, Madonna was finding new relevance. In 2000, she released the album Music. It blended electronic elements with touches of folk and country aesthetics. The title track became a global hit. With its simple chorus, "Music makes the people come together," it captured universal appeal. The visuals of this era, featuring cowboy hats, denim, and neon Western motifs, were playful and surprising. Once again, Madonna had reinvented her look and sound. That same year, she married British film director Guy Ritchie. Their son, Rocco, had been born just before the wedding. During this period, Madonna split her life between the United States and the United Kingdom, embracing aspects of British culture in both her public and private life. The marriage brought changes to her personal routine and her creative environment. It also shifted how the media portrayed her, sometimes affectionately, sometimes critically, depending on the moment. In 2002 and 2003, Madonna returned to acting with mixed results. She appeared in films that were not widely praised, but she remained active in the creative world. In 2003, she released American Life, an album that challenged consumer culture, material obsession, and the emptiness that can accompany fame. The original video for the title track included strong political imagery, referencing war and media manipulation. Because of global tensions, especially around the Iraq War, she withdrew the original video and replaced it with a simpler version. Commercially, American Life did not reach the success of her earlier works. However, it revealed her willingness to speak critically about the culture that had elevated her. She seemed less concerned with pleasing the charts and more interested in expressing ideas, even when they were uncomfortable or unpopular. In 2005, Madonna released one of her strongest later career albums, Confessions on a Dance Floor. This project was a return to her roots in dance music, structured like a seamless DJ set. The songs flowed into each other without pause, creating a continuous, energetic journey. The album paid homage to 1,970 seconds disco, 1,980 seconds club culture, and modern electronic production. The lead single, Hung Up, sampled ABBA's Gimme. Gimme, Gimme. A rare permission granted by the Swedish group, the song was a massive global hit. Madonna, approaching 50, appeared in the video wearing a pink leotard and dancing with the strength and flexibility she had cultivated since her teenage years. The image challenged cultural assumptions about age, femininity, and visibility. The success of Confessions on a Dance Floor reaffirmed Madonna's ability to connect with audiences across generations. It also demonstrated the depth of her influence on dance music, fashion, and performance. After her divorce from Guy Ritchie in 2008, Madonna continued to evolve artistically. She released the album Hard Candy that same year, collaborating with contemporary hitmakers such as Pharrell Williams, Timbaland, and Justin Timberlake. The sound merged pop with R&B and hip-hop influences, reflecting the musical landscape of the late 2000s. In 2012, she released MDNA, an album infused with themes of heartbreak, resilience, and transformation. She also performed at the Super Bowl halftime show that year, delivering a grand theatrical performance seen by more than 100 million viewers. The show featured elaborate choreography, iconic costumes, and a mix of her classic hits. It reinforced her reputation as one of the greatest live performers in pop history. In 2015, she released Rebel Heart, which combined introspective tracks with energetic anthems. The album examined her public image, her internal struggles, and the ongoing tension between vulnerability and strength. Madonna's ability to blend personal reflection with bold visual storytelling helped the album resonate with longtime fans. By 2019, when she released Madame X, Madonna had relocated to Portugal for several years. Living in Lisbon exposed her to new musical influences, including fado and Latin rhythms. Madame X reflected these global sounds and incorporated political themes, exploring issues of freedom, resistance, and cultural identity. The album introduced a new persona, Madame X, described as a secret agent who changes identities and travels the world. It was a theatrical, experimental project that continued her pattern of reinvention. During these years, Madonna also expanded her family further. She adopted several children from Malawi, strengthening her connection to the country. Her philanthropic work grew through her organization, Raising Malawi, which focused on healthcare and education initiatives. One of her most significant contributions was the opening of the Mercy James Center for Pediatric Surgery and Intensive Care in Lilongwe in 2017. It was the first facility of its kind in Malawi and a meaningful testament to her long-term commitment. As Madonna moved into her 60s, media narratives often shifted toward age, sometimes critically. Pop culture has long held misconceptions about how women should behave as they age. Many commentators insisted she ought to retire, tone down her performances, or adopt a quieter public image. Madonna refused all of it. She openly criticized ageism, arguing that older women should not be expected to fade into the background. If male rock stars could perform into their 70s and still be celebrated, she saw no reason why women should be pushed aside. Her stance on visibility and aging became one more frontier where she challenged cultural norms. Her live performances remained ambitious, theatrical, and physically demanding. She toured, danced, and gave deeply conceptual shows. She continued to use bold fashion, cinematic visuals, and sharp choreography, proving that artistic expression does not have an expiration date. In 2023 and 2024, Madonna launched the Celebration Tour, a massive retrospective of her 4-decade career. The tour revisited the visual styles, eras, and songs that defined her artistic identity. For many fans, it was a chance to celebrate not only her music, but also the evolution of her persona and the impact she had on pop culture. The shows highlighted her legacy as a pioneer of music videos, dance pop innovation, feminist expression, and queer empowerment. Through all these transitions, Madonna built a career defined by control. She insisted on owning her image, directing her narrative, and shaping the terms of her creative output. She was one of the first women in pop music to assert this level of agency, not only in performance but also in business, branding, and cultural influence. Her journey also reflected resilience. She endured criticism, controversy, commercial dips, personal challenges, and intense media scrutiny. Each time, she returned with something new, a new sound, a new look, a new message, or a new question. Reinvention became not just a strategy, but a philosophy. As she entered the later decades of her career, Madonna's influence became more visible in retrospective form. New generations of pop stars, Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Britney Spears, Miley Cyrus, all owed something to Madonna's groundwork: the blend of music and fashion, the use of persona, the boldness of sexual expression, the theatrical stagecraft, the insistence on self-definition. Many artists cited her directly as an inspiration. Even those who didn't openly reference her still moved through pathways she had carved. Her activism also became part of her legacy. She used her platform to speak about LGBTQ+ rights, HIV/AIDS awareness, gender equality, and humanitarian issues. Her voice joined, and often amplified, conversations that shaped social movements. Madonna's life, seen as a whole, is not a single linear story. It is a mosaic of transformations. A young girl from a strict Catholic household, a dancer shaped by discipline and loss, a club performer in New York searching for opportunity, a pop star using sound and image to become iconic, a mother balancing fame with family, an activist supporting global causes, an artist refusing invisibility. Her biography is long, complex, and ever-shifting, and yet, in this calm retelling, it becomes simply a human journey, full of effort, creativity, mistakes, risks, successes, and constant reinvention. As Madonna moved through the second decade of the 2000s, the public conversation about her often shifted between admiration and scrutiny. She had already lived several full careers, each distinct in tone and theme. but the media still treated her as if she had to justify her ongoing presence. Instead of fading, she chose to continue exploring, experimenting, and performing with the same intensity she had shown since her early days in New York. Her 2012 album MDNA reflected themes of heartbreak and emotional rebuilding after her divorce from Guy Ritchie. The sound blended dance pop and electronic influences, but the lyrics revealed a deeper vulnerability. Tracks like I'm Addicted and Girl Gone Wild focused on energy and rhythm, while songs like Falling Free exposed a more introspective side. It was an album created by a woman who had lived through multiple reinventions and was still sorting through the aftermath of a major personal change. The same year, Madonna delivered one of the most watched Super Bowl halftime shows in history. More than 100 million people tuned in as she performed a visually striking medley of her hits, complete with elaborate staging and choreography. The performance highlighted her command of theatrical spectacle and reinforced her status as a performer who could captivate on the world's biggest stages. After MDNA, Madonna continued shaping her artistic expression through touring and public appearances. She also expanded her philanthropic efforts. Raising Malawi, the nonprofit she founded, became one of her most dedicated long-term projects. She frequently visited the country, met with local leaders, and oversaw the development of schools and healthcare facilities. The Mercy James Center, named after one of her daughters, stood as a major accomplishment, a fully equipped pediatric surgery facility in a country where medical resources were often limited. In 2015, Madonna released Rebel Heart, an album that blended personal reflection with energy and attitude. The songs explored themes of identity, fame, resilience, and the tension between public persona and private self. Tracks like Ghost Town showed a softer, emotional vulnerability, while Living for Love delivered a sense of strength and perseverance. The album artwork, featuring Madonna's face wrapped in black cords, symbolized the pressures and constraints that come with global visibility. The accompanying Rebel Heart tour demonstrated her continued commitment to athletic, visually ambitious live shows. She danced, sang, commanded large stages, and performed with the same intensity that had defined her career for decades. For many fans, the tour affirmed that Madonna was not simply maintaining relevance. She was actively pushing her artistry into new chapters. By the late 2010s, Madonna had relocated to Portugal, looking for a slower pace of life for herself and her children. Living in Lisbon introduced her to new musical influences, including local fado and African rhythms from the city's multicultural communities. These influences shaped her 2019 album Madame X, which incorporated global styles and political themes. Madonna adopted the persona of Madame the Tenth, described as a shape-shifting agent who takes on many identities. The project felt theatrical and conceptual, blending music with storytelling. The album explored themes of freedom, cultural blending, and resistance. Songs like Medellin, Crave, and Extreme Occident showcased her willingness to experiment, even after decades in the industry. Some listeners connected deeply with the album's adventurous nature, while others found it unusual or challenging. But that divergence was fitting for an artist whose career had always invited debate. As Madonna transitioned into her 60s, the media's fixation on her age intensified. Articles often focused less on her music and more on her appearance, her surgeries, her outfits, or her romantic life. The public still expected women in entertainment to follow certain rules as they aged, rules Madonna openly rejected. She continued wearing bold fashion, performing energetic choreography, and presenting herself with the confidence she had built over a lifetime. She spoke openly about the double standards that applied to women. Male musicians her age were often celebrated for their longevity. Female performers were often criticized for not fading away. Madonna argued that this perspective was outdated and unfair. She insisted on owning her choices regardless of public opinion. Her relationship with social media grew more complex during this time. She engaged with fans, posted personal updates, and shared behind-the-scenes moments. At times, her posts sparked controversy or confusion. Madonna had always pushed boundaries, but social media presented a new kind of scrutiny, one that was constant, immediate, and often harsh. Still, she continued using the medium to craft her own narrative. The late 2010s and early 2020s brought both challenges and milestones. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic halted live performances around the world. Madonna, like all touring artists, paused her concerts and public events. During this period, she underwent surgeries for hip and knee injuries caused by decades of intense physical performance. Recovery was difficult, and for a performer who built her identity on movement, adjusting to a slower pace was emotionally significant. Despite the setbacks, she continued creating. She worked on editing and preparing past tour footage, releasing concert films and documentaries. She also continued developing a biographical film project about her own life, co-writing and preparing to co-direct the movie. Madonna has long been protective of her narrative, and the idea of controlling her biopic was in line with her lifelong insistence on self-authorship. In 2023, Madonna announced the Celebration Tour, a massive global tour designed to honor the 40th anniversary of her career. The tour was both a retrospective and a reinvention, revisiting the eras, songs, and visuals that shaped her journey. The announcement generated immense excitement, a celebration not only of her music but also of her cultural impact. Shortly before the tour was set to begin, Madonna faced a serious health scare. She was hospitalized for a bacterial infection and spent time in intensive care. Fans and media worldwide expressed concern. When she recovered sufficiently to resume rehearsals, she returned to the project with determination. The setback became part of the tour's narrative, another reminder of her resilience. When the tour finally launched, it received enthusiastic reviews. The staging, costumes, and choreography honored her past eras while presenting them through a contemporary lens. The show featured tributes to queer ballroom culture, nods to key album visuals, and reinterpretations of iconic songs. For many audiences, the tour was a reminder of how much Madonna had contributed to music and culture across multiple generations. The tour also served as an intergenerational gathering. Fans who grew up with Madonna in the 1980s attended alongside younger listeners who discovered her through streaming platforms, documentaries, or collaborations with modern artists. At each show, the crowd represented decades of influence converging in one space. Through all these developments, Madonna continued balancing professional work with her personal life. She raised her 6 children, Lourdes, Rocco, David, Mercy, and twins Stella and Esther, each with their own personalities, interests, and paths. Madonna frequently described motherhood as one of the most grounding and meaningful experiences of her life. It reshaped her priorities, softened some edges, and intensified her emotional depth. Her children, particularly the younger ones adopted from Malawi, joined her in creative pursuits. Some performed with her on tour, while others developed their own artistic interests. Her relationship with her children reflects a private side that contrasts sharply with her bold public persona. Behind the spectacle and the provocation, there is a mother deeply connected to her family. As the years continued, Madonna's activism remained a significant part of her identity. She spoke out on behalf of LGBTQ+ communities, advocated for women's rights, and addressed political and social issues through both speeches and performances. She used her platform to amplify concerns about healthcare, education, racial equality, and international aid. Her position sometimes attracted criticism, but Madonna's engagement with activism was not new. From her early days in New York, where the AIDS crisis devastated communities, including her close friends, she had been vocal about human rights, compassion, and solidarity. Her activism, like her art, evolved but never disappeared. By the time she reached the 2020s, Madonna had become one of the most documented and analyzed figures in modern culture. Academics studied her influence on gender, sexuality, media, and performance. Journalists examined her business strategies and branding. Fans celebrated her music and her bravery. Even critics who disliked aspects of her career acknowledged her monumental impact. Her life, viewed as a whole, is a study in determination. From the loss of her mother to the challenges of New York, from the explosive rise to fame to the controversies that followed, from motherhood to philanthropy, from reinvention after reinvention, the common thread is persistence. Madonna never remained still. She never accepted only one version of herself. She never let others decide when her career should end. Her story also reflects the evolution of pop culture itself. When she entered the music industry, the concept of a female pop star controlling her image, sexuality, and business decisions was still unusual. Madonna shifted that landscape. She influenced not just what pop stars sounded like or looked like, but how they managed their careers. She blurred the lines between music, fashion, performance art, theater, activism, and film. She treated pop as something serious and valuable, worthy of intellectual exploration and artistic risk. This approach reshaped the expectations placed on performers who came after her. She also created a new template for longevity. In an industry that often discards women, Madonna insisted that a career could last decades if an artist kept evolving and refused invisibility. Her ability to stay relevant, even through public criticism, became a cornerstone of her legacy. As she continued into her 60s, Madonna remained active, creative, and engaged with new forms of expression. She collaborated with younger artists, experimented with new producers, and explored modern trends while still maintaining her signature themes: self-expression, freedom, and reinvention. Her career became not just a story of success, but a map of cultural change across 4 decades. In the years after Madonna entered her 60s, public conversations about her began to shift. People no longer focused only on her latest single, album, or video. Increasingly, the discussion centered on what Madonna represented as a whole. A figure whose influence stretched across 4 decades, a performer who had reinvented herself so many times that she had become a living archive of modern pop culture. Her cultural impact was broad and layered. Critics, academics, and younger artists frequently returned to the same point. Madonna was one of the first mainstream performers to truly understand the power of imagery in popular music. She treated visuals not as decoration, but as a core part of her artistry. Fashion, photography, dance, symbolism, and cinematic staging all worked together to create a unified identity. Before her, image accompanied music. After her, image and music became inseparable. Madonna's use of religious iconography, sexual expression, political references, and historical motifs was never random. Each era had a clear aesthetic identity, from the rebellious street style of the early 80s to the spiritual electronica of Ray of Light, from the disco glamour of Confessions on a dance floor to the global multilingual world-building of Madame the Tenth. Reinvention, for Madonna, was not simply a marketing tool. It was an artistic language, the way she processed change, personal growth, and cultural shifts. This attitude inspired entire generations of performers. Many major pop artists openly acknowledged Madonna as a blueprint. Beyoncé cited her as a key influence in crafting a visual, narrative-driven pop identity. Lady Gaga inherited the theatricality and conceptual ambition Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera found space for sensual choreographed pop, partly because Madonna had carved out that space decades earlier. In queer communities, especially within drag culture and ballroom culture, Madonna was embraced not only as an icon, but as a collaborator, an advocate, and an ally. Another dimension of her impact involved gender. Before Madonna, female pop stars were often expected to fit narrow roles: glamorous but controlled, desirable but passive, talented but quiet about it. Madonna challenged all of that. She talked openly about female sexuality from the female perspective. She controlled her business decisions. She negotiated her contracts with unusual assertiveness. She refused to apologize for ambition. Many of the freedoms that younger female performers now take for granted, creative self-direction, explicit lyricism, gender-fluid imagery, were built on the ground Madonna had already broken. Her relationship with the media, however, was complicated from the start. The press needed headlines, scandals, and provocative narratives, and Madonna often provided them, sometimes intentionally, sometimes inadvertently. But she also maintained private boundaries and understood that fame involved performance. She let certain stories circulate while keeping other parts of her life protected. This balance was unusual in the 80s and 90s, long before social media blurred the line between public and private life. Madonna's ability to shape her own narrative became a template for artists who followed. Her provocations were often misunderstood. While some critics dismissed them as empty shock tactics, many scholars later argued that they served a deeper purpose: to expose the rules society placed on women, on desire, on religion, and on artistic expression. Each boundary she pushed revealed something about the culture that resisted her. In this sense, Madonna functioned like a mirror, reflecting the anxieties and expectations of the time. Her relationship with the LGBTQ+ community was equally significant. Madonna had been immersed in queer spaces since her early days in New York. Many of her closest friends, collaborators, and mentors were gay men, particularly dancers and performers from underground scenes. During the height of the AIDS crisis, she was one of the only major celebrities to speak publicly about the epidemic, to raise money for research, and to include prevention messages in her concerts. For many LGBTQ+ fans, this created a bond that extended far beyond entertainment. Madonna was seen as someone who understood their struggles and used her platform to amplify them. Her influence extended strongly into fashion. Designers such as Jean-Paul Gaultier, Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, and Riccardo Tisci frequently cited her as a muse. The cone bra, the sharply tailored suits, the androgynous tuxedos, the crucifix accessories, the lace gloves, the cowboy hats, the pink leotard, each became a visual marker of an era, recognizable even decades later. Photographers like Herb Ritts, Stephen Meisel, and Mario Testino collaborated with her to create images that became iconic in magazines, galleries, and global advertising. Madonna's contribution to the evolution of the music video was equally profound. She treated videos as short films, pouring time and resources into their concept, choreography, lighting, and symbolism. Vogue, directed by David Fincher, became a masterpiece of monochrome elegance. Express Yourself reimagined industrial futurism. Like a prayer combined personal storytelling with social commentary. Frozen featured sweeping cinematography and transformative visual effects. Her videos were not just promotional tools, they were artworks that shaped the collective visual language of pop. As time passed, Madonna's career was increasingly viewed as a timeline of cultural change. Each album represented a shift in style, technology, or social conversation. To study Madonna was, in a sense, to study the evolution of Western pop culture from the 1980s onward. She had weathered the rise of MTV, the digital revolution, the streaming era, and the fragmentation of attention in the age of social media. Through all of it, she remained present. Behind her public persona, there was also the disciplined worker. Colleagues frequently described her as demanding but deeply committed. She rehearsed for hours, pushed her dancers to precision, and refused to allow sloppy execution in any aspect of her shows. This work ethic came from her early training in dance and her belief that mastery required seriousness. She approached each tour like a theater production, each music video like a film, and each album like a personal evolution. She also observed new trends closely. Unlike some legacy artists who distanced themselves from younger generations, Madonna paid attention. She studied new sounds, rising stars, emerging aesthetics, and shifts in youth culture. She absorbed analyzed, and reinterpreted, always through her own lens. This adaptability kept her relevant far longer than the industry usually allows. Her relationship with commercial success was equally unusual. Some albums were massive hits. Others were less commercially received. But Madonna never appeared threatened by the idea of failing. Reinvention, even at the risk of rejection, seemed more important to her than repeating formulas. This approach allowed her to explore more varied artistic directions: spiritual, political, experimental, theatrical, without being tethered to expectations. In the social media era, Madonna became a lightning rod for criticism. People commented on her appearance, her surgeries, her clothing, her behavior, her romantic life. Much of this commentary was rooted in ageism and sexism. Madonna responded in different ways at different times, sometimes playfully, sometimes defiantly, sometimes with silence. She reminded people that visibility is a choice, and she refused to surrender hers. For her, aging was not a reason to shrink, but another stage of evolution. Viewed from a calm distance, stripped of tabloid noise, her life reveals a consistent thread: dedication to art. Whether she was singing, dancing, directing, writing, designing, or organizing charity initiatives, she approached each task with intention. Reinvention was not a performance gimmick. It was the natural expression of someone who understood that life itself changes constantly. Each phase of her journey left something behind: an image, a song, a movement, a question. She made mistakes, corrected course, tried again. She followed her curiosity, even when it led somewhere uncomfortable, and in doing so, she reshaped the boundaries of pop performance. As the story approaches the present moment, what remains is not a list of achievements, but a portrait of a woman who refused to settle into one identity. A woman who insisted that creative life could continue indefinitely, adapting to time rather than resisting it. A woman who believed that expression, in any form, was worth pursuing relentlessly. And now, with only one final stretch remaining, the narrative can shift into a softer, more reflective tone, one that gathers everything into a calm, continuous flow. In the quiet space of her later years, Madonna's story settles into something broader than the sequence of albums, tours, and reinventions. What remains, when the noise softens, is the outline of a person who built her life around curiosity and determination. Looking back at her journey, it becomes clear that she was never just reacting to culture. She was shaping it. Not through perfect choices, but through continual motion. She explored, questioned, challenged, retreated, returned, and tried again. Her life was never a straight line. It bent, expanded, stumbled, and rebuilt itself many times. And each shift carried its own meaning. As she grew older, the questions she faced changed. People began to ask what it means to age in a world that values youth so intensely. They wondered whether an artist who built herself on transformation could continue evolving indefinitely. Madonna answered simply by continuing to work. Not in the same way as before, but in a way that matched who she had become. Her choreography softened at times, her voice changed, her interests expanded into new territories. Yet the core remained, a woman insisting that creativity does not have an expiration date. Her home life also grounded her more deeply. Raising several children with different backgrounds and personalities gave her a sense of continuity far removed from the glare of the stage lights. In private moments, she was no longer the icon or the controversy or the image. She was simply a mother navigating ordinary rhythms: school, milestones, small worries, shared routines. Those who knew her personally often said that this was the version of Madonna most people never saw: calmer, gentler, protective, and attentive. Still, even in quieter times, there were sparks of the same fire she carried from her early days in Michigan and her arrival in New York with a handful of dollars. Age did not erase her defiance. it refined it. She spoke openly about the pressure for women to become invisible as they grow older, and she refused to comply. Her visibility became a statement that a full life includes many eras, and each is worthy of expression. At this stage, Madonna's place in culture feels settled and, at the same time, unfinished. She is no longer defined by a single decade or trend. Instead, she is a long thread woven through many changing landscapes. The analog world of vinyl and tape, the MTV age of sharp visuals, the digital revolution, the streaming era, and the fragmented attention of modern media. Few artists have spanned so many shifts while remaining recognizable. For listeners today, her story carries different meanings depending on where they enter it. Some remember her as the rebellious young star in layered lace. Others know her through the elegance of Vogue, the spiritual tone of Ray of Light, or the neon energy of Confessions on a dance floor. Younger audiences may know her through remixes, documentaries, or her influence on contemporary performers. The entry point changes, but the through line remains, a woman shaping her own narrative. As this biography draws to a close, there is no need for grand conclusions. Madonna's journey continues, shaped by new choices and new seasons. What matters is the sense of motion, the steady willingness to evolve, to try again, to experiment without certainty. Her story is not about perfection, but persistence. You can let the details drift now. You do not need to hold on to dates, names, or specific moments. The overall impression is enough. The image of a woman who kept moving, kept creating, kept questioning the world around her. A woman who understood that reinvention is not a break from who you are, but another way of being yourself. And with that, the narrative can settle. The energy of her life continues in the world outside this moment, but here, the story reaches a gentle rest. You can let the words fade into quiet, allowing your mind to soften and your breath to ease. Her journey carries on. And now, for a while, you can simply rest.